Should we welcome our special guest now, Mr. Kojima? Yeah. Okay, great. All right, well, our first special guest is someone who you know from Death Stranding. He's Tarman, but he's also the director of the legendary Mad Max series. It is such an honor to have him with us live here in person. Please welcome the great George Miller.
Ah! Oh, they're gonna have a very cool panel. Very, very cool.
Great to see you, George. But that's not all. Next, please welcome the world-renowned Oscar-winning filmmaker who also appeared in Death Stranding as Deadman, Guillermo del Toro, everyone.
I saw him gifted Kojima a poster for Frankenstein. That looks so sick. Does it have the clothes and everything? Yeah.
And finally, the legendary figure of Japanese animation who has also appeared in Death Stranding. You know him as the pizza chef in Death Stranding 2, Mamoru Oshii-san.
Freaking pizza.
Thank you all for joining us. Please have a seat.
Oh.
Well, this is once in a lifetime to have all you guys
Yeah.
here for Hideo's anniversary, of course, but also the theme of this panel is the future of entertainment, visions from legends. So first of all, I wanted to ask all you guys, what did you think of Hideo's announcements? We got a credit card, we got sake, we got games, a little bit of everything. What are your thoughts? Starting with you, George. What did you think of his announcements?
Well, first of all, it didn't stop. It goes on and on. It's like a massive feast for somebody who, like everyone around, is into consuming this stories, particularly coming from you. It just goes on and on. It's even got sake, and it's just wonderful to look ahead to it and to see where it's going. There's so many dimensions to it. That's what's so fascinating to me.
Guillermo, what are your thoughts?
I was hoping for a diet pill, but he didn't do one. But, I'm very excited about OD now because I know how good he is at scaring. You know, we Ito Junji and him and I had a couple of sessions for a game I will not mention, but he's so good at horror, and I think he's a master at it. So I'm expecting much fear to come my way.
It looks incredible. Oshii-san, what are your thoughts on Mr. Kojima's announcements? Got animation coming too, right?
Yeah, I was surprised about the animation. I wasn't sure you were working on it. I didn't know you were working on so many different projects. I wonder if it's good for you, actually. For me, I think you work 10 times more than I do. And you are reaching so far and so wide, and I'm a bit worried. Personally, my wish is for Kojima-san to work on something alone, something that is truly by Hideo Kojima. Maybe you can write a novel. Maybe that's something you can think about. In any case, you're making sake. That was a surprise. For me, I only work maybe 3 hours per day. I spend the rest of the day just playing Kojima-san's games. I don't know, what should I say? What else I can say? I was surprised you were working on so many different projects. We are working in the same industry, but what a difference. I'm 10 years or so older, but when we think about 10 years from now, it will be a quite tough discussion.
Well, I know, Hideo, you're restless about sort of where the industry is going, and I know you have so many ideas in your head, and we want to talk maybe about this next phase of entertainment, and all you guys, I think, have thoughts about this, right?
はい、すごく、エンタメが変わる。
Well, entertainment is in the brink of time where it could change with quantum computers, AI, and streaming services. So the next 5, 10 years, the creators need to change because the technology changes, the environment changes, the audience would change. So what can we make in that era is the key question here.
Wow. Well, that's a big question to unpack, but let me start with you, Hideo. The question to all of you, what do you think is going to be the sort of the biggest radical shift in how we experience stories in the next decade? I know, Hideo, you've seen this kind of, merging of cinema and games, and a lot of the technology is, the same technology that's being used to build these things. How is that going to change how we experience entertainment? Not, in 2026, but 10 years from now.
映画も小説も
Well, movies, novels, games, the current ones would remain. Even the films in theaters would remain. But it's now all digital. Movies, music, even books, and also streaming. And you'll have everything in digital. So the audience could have just one platform, like an iPad or a smartphone, and you could retrieve any kind of entertainment. Everything was all apart before, like novels were paper on books, films and movie, but this will be all merged kind of together, not as one, but it will create more new things like movie and games in between something medium, or novel and movie in between medium. Something that we never seen before will probably be born. And also AI comes in, and all Hollywood movies and our games, the cost was so high, but with AI it'll be more low cost and budget. So you could now create with small teams or even alone using those technologies. So it won't be like a gigantic team will be needed for anything. You'll be much more speedy with smaller teams.
George, any predictions from your front of what excites you or what you think is going to radically change?
Well, the only thing I can say is without question, there is change, and it's happening more rapidly than we've ever seen before. And that's basically the evolution of technology from the very beginning of who we are as human beings. Like a lot of people, I've been really interested in AI, not only how it affects what we do in storytelling, but in medicine. Going back to the medical school where I went to see how it's affecting that, and at the world at large. And in every one of those arenas, the thing I hear most is that what may have taken a year or 2 years now it's shifting so quickly, might be just a week or 2 weeks. So it's a fantastic and scary ride. In all those arenas too, people are talking about the ethics of it.
Exactly.
Which is really good. And that's always been
in all ways
the story of technology and art and human endeavor. Going way back, I remember so there's a kind of dichotomy to it. Even though the technology is changing, there's some things that are always constant. And that is the fundamentals of storytelling. Without going on too long, the one thing that's unique about Australia, where I come from, is that there is a culture that's a surviving culture that's at least 65,000 years old in the Indigenous Australians. And with nothing else there, because Australia is essentially an arid desert, they basically navigated the world, everything in the universe, through story. And I realize that's what's happening across all time and space. However deep in the future, whatever future we have, we'll still go through that process. The technology will change. For me, I've enjoyed the ride always. I'm amazed how every one of the films I've made has been influenced by the tools at hand at any moment. So it's exciting. It's also a bit scary, but it's wonderful.
Yeah. Guillermo, building on that idea, story is at the core, of course, of everything. But is the audience do you think they will experience stories in radical new ways, or will it still be very true to the way we know it today?
I don't know. I think that every time there's a technological change, it takes a minute for humans to find their spirit back in the art. I think that when photography came and overtook the need for realism in painting,
exactly.
academic realism, it took a little bit for us to experience then symbolism, impressionism, and things that were searching for something else rather than surrendering to photography. I think that, I'm 60, so I'm starting to get a little alarmed. But it's what happens when you're 60. You have prostate exams and you get alarmed. But I think that we have to find the human spirit in what is coming. I don't think it's enough to have speed and delivery and comfort. When you're talking about storytelling, it's about depth, it's about connection, and I'm not skeptic. I think we may find it, but the future that I look forward to is when technology, which is a thing of its own, it dictates and is a bit of a tyrannical move forward, is what we experience. No one knew that the biggest change in architecture in all of the world would come from a car. But all our cities transformed from that car. So in my opinion, what we are experiencing, which is wild, crazy, in many ways motivated by industrial and stock desires, by big companies, that we can find the human spirit on that. And to me, what I'm looking forward in 10 years is sort of finding a way to get the emotion into that. There's a very significant pact we have as humans with image. And I think a lot of that pact depends on us believing there is something, someone sacrificed or someone suffered for that image behind all that. It's not enough to generate facsimiles of images. I'm really concerned if we are still going to connect. That's the only thing that we need to take care of, connecting, because that's the function of art is not just to render, and it's not just to make feasible, is to actually express and connect. And that's why I was very moved by Death Stranding when I first played it. First of all, I saw that I got into the shower with Norman Reedus and was slightly alarmed. But second, I was incredibly moved by what it was seeking, which was connection, and it failed. And I love when that happens, especially with Hideo, when things that are highly evolved are seeking the basic emotion. So my hope for the future is a bit of the past.
Yes. So true. Oshi-san, you've heard thoughts from Hideo, George, and Guillermo. Anything to add on there about how you think the stories will evolve in the next decade?
Well, with all these technological changes, it is true, as an animated film director, I've been working in the industry for over 50 years, but what's happening over the past 5-6 years is comparable to what has happened over the past 5 decades. We are seeing rapid change, drastic change, even hand-drawn titles. We take motions, and also AI is being introduced into the field. We are using AI as tools. So the animation, the creation process has already undergone significant change. And every time we do or we work on a project, everything changes. So if we are working on a title every 3 years, by the time we are finished, everything has changed. All the technology behind has changed. We need to start anew. When it comes to story, for me, Essentially, I think from long ago, stories have not changed much. As humans remain human, I think stories will remain unchanged. But the characters that express the stories, where I want to pay attention to, of course, the characters fitting for the given time, characters that have that foreshadow the times to come. So I think those are the characters that I need to focus on and shed light on. The story itself, it can be anything. It doesn't matter what the story is. Even a classical story, it's completely fine. But to act the story out, the characters that appear in the story are important. Especially for me, what I do is animation. So the theme, perhaps for my industry, is slightly different from the film industry, because we don't rely on actors. We need to rely on ourselves and what goes on in our own minds, and try to create that into animations. So that's an advantage as well as a challenge for us. For technology and how it affects storytelling, since changes are occurring rapidly, even if we go against the changes, we cannot. We are washed away. And when you try to ride this tide, it's also difficult. But maybe another option is to ignore all those changes happening. Perhaps that's one option for us as human beings. And for people who do not have a real existence, maybe like cyborgs and clones, I'm attracted to these beings. So that's maybe where I'm coming from. But maybe we need to be more aware that we have become these beings in a sense. Everyone here, I've been saying this for over 10 years, we've become more like cyborgs. Everyone is like a cyborg. Everything's connected. We are all connected to something else, and acquiring freedom is going to be more difficult in the future. So maybe we need to think about what to do in that state. So that's something I've been thinking about lately.
Wow. Great insight. And you talked about sort of the positive aspects of this, but also some of the fears, right, of, keeping it human, keeping the connection. We always talk vision panels about the great things, but I'm curious, for each of you, what do you think is the darkest possibility you see, and what would you do to prevent it? The fear that, that all this technology, what could it lead to that would be?
Okay, I'll pause here before the next question. I mean, there are a lot of things that I could talk, but I mean, it's very interesting that what they're saying, and I so far agree with what they say. Don't go into AI, Kojima, please, for the love of God. The thing is, AI itself has been around for ages. The problem now is also generative AI, and there's a lot of applications that are very dangerous, and also, of course, the rapid evolution of it and how much is getting pushed of that type of AI, and the environmental impact and what it's already doing to people's daily lives, how they are interacting with it, and how not okay it is. But at least it's starting to reach kind of a plateau. I was talking about this with my family the other day. So we're gonna start seeing some different applications of it as well. George Miller talked about the medical field. This was something I talked with my mom. Since she's a doctor, and it's very concerning. It can be extremely interesting, extremely interesting, but it has to be done extremely with extreme care. And the problem is that most of the people that are behind companies like that, they just want to push their product towards certain industries and just make money out of it, and not really care if it works ethically, if it works perfectly, etc. What very likely will happen is they're just going to try to push it to start diagnose, which is extremely difficult, and it's a very human problem as well, because doctors, in order to diagnose correctly, it's not just a matter of having the symptoms listed out. It's actually extracting the information from the patient and understanding what is happening. That itself is a very, very human thing, and it's really, really tough to do. And that AI can't do. It just can't. It can only analyze whatever you feed it in that sense. But the reality is that that is going to happen, and it's quite frightening. But regarding the appearance of it, I think it can be a very good tool, and it doesn't have to replace artists whatsoever. What Guillermo del Toro talked about photography is something that I myself keep talking about. It is like basic art history for those that studied art history. It's like a major shifting point, specifically like in with painting, but like moved across different mediums, and it's part of it. It's like Robbie wrote in chat. It's like it's a cycle. If you know history, you recognize you're in a shifting point. The problem is that you have to take care of it, like recognize that it's happening. Of course, you can't like stop it. It's just gonna happen, but you have to know where to put certain blockages and like certain blocks, I mean, and how to be careful with it. Because like I said, for example, the AI farms that we're already having, the impact that it has just not good whatsoever. Happy at least someone finds this cover interesting. I'm sorry, how can someone listen to them and not finding interesting? I do not get it. Do people just get bored with this type of things? Just like, this is my daily type of topics. Just like things that I keep thinking about and reading stuff about. I just don't like the Gen AI. Of course, you can definitely use AI in a different way, like for scanning actors and objects and stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. Gen AI is not good, but AI in general, like it has been around for so long. The problem is that a lot of people can't make the differentiate both types, because there's like both types. There's a bunch of different types, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm glad. Khadrish, welcome back. We talk. Just waiting for Fish to stream Koji Pro event. If Fish is skipping this, so watch this no matter what. Oh, from my point of view, as long as AI is kept as a tool, we're good. The problem is the tool, because there's also some tools that are not, like I said, with the whole medical application. It's tricky. Yeah. Big money is just smoking everything up at the moment. The bubble, yep. AI-induced, psychosis is a risk, yeah. I think it's safe to say that there hasn't been any type of media, maybe film, series, anime, art, or anything at all, that is iconic, but all completely reliant on AI to this day. Not yet, no. Yeah. Everyone skips 5 minutes in. What the heck? That's so wrong. Like, they're all so interesting people. They talk and like they articulate themselves so well that it's so interesting to hear. Yeah. And that's why I generally don't expect new insights from talks about talks I have myself. Yeah, but it's still interesting to see how people articulate, you know? And even if it's an opinion that you yourself have, each of them talked slightly different from each other about the same topic and the same question, right? And with their own perspectives, which is obviously something that I don't have. Like, I'm not a game creator, a movie director, or like animation director. And it's interesting to see how they communicate, because they talk well. I saw something about how ChatGPT will agree with whatever you throw at it to keep you engaged with that project. Yeah, that is a very big problem. Just a segue, my alma mater has invited Miyazaki to do a talk, but most are saying it'll be just a video call and he's actually not coming here. But these talks are what I always want to watch. I mean, even if it's just a talk. It's freaking cool. All right, let's continue.
Not good, and how do you think we can prevent it? Starting with you, Hideo.
What was the question, really? Sorry, I'll have to go back. Oh, darkest possibility you see.
The fear that, that all this technology, what could it lead to that would be not good, and how do you think we can prevent it? Starting with you, Hideo.
暗い
Dark? Okay. Well, just as Mr. Oshii said, the stories haven't changed from long time ago. The mythology, Japanese folklores, Asian folk tales are quite the same. But I don't see anything from there. It's like the person who tells the story is very important, the storytellers. So these people have changed over the eras. So even if it's the same story, it changes according to the storyteller. I mean, like people who told that story 500 years ago, 100 years ago, today, they live in a different environment and technology. So how that storyteller tells the story will, of course, change. The meaning, the root of the story will never change, but how the details and how it's told is really reliant on their background. Like, for instance, these days, everyone has a smartphone and everyone is a storyteller, and everyone can just choose what they want to tell. So you have to look at, as a human being, how do you tell the basic instincts of the human is also the key.
And I imagine with that, you said there's so many stories that can be made so quickly, so rapidly. We talk about, AI, how quickly things can be generated and whatnot. Is that a dark possibility, George, that there's sort of too many stories, or we're over, like how does something really matter, right, when there's so much content out there?
Well, it's the paradox or the contradictions. There is no question, first of all, that we are hardwired for story. It's part of, I think it's pre-human. If you look at the instinctual behavior of animals, there is a narrative. But for humans, where there's no question, it's an essential part of how we try to understand the world. Now, with the technology making it available to everybody, the real question is which of the stories which are kind of going to get traction, even if it's within a small group. I mean, one of the great dangers of modern technology and the dissemination of story, it's all narrative, is that, as we know, bubbles are created. And people invest deeply into those belief systems. And hence we get cults and of all kinds, religious cults, political cults, and so on. That narrative we see played out across time, and it's accelerating. So it comes down to, I'm already hearing it. I'm picking up the term AI slop. Yep. There's so much out there, and people aren't necessarily consuming it, just a small group of friends. What are the stories that have the comprehensive strengths that work intensely on the human being, as you were saying? And what are the platforms through which they're going to be experienced? It's impossible to tell. It's with it seems to be the case with all technology. Nobody imagined that the internet, when they first worked on it, as a way, as a counter to nuclear, the first web was a military exercise. Nobody imagined that we would be doing that today. With the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell was basically trying to figure out how to help people who were deaf. Had no idea that it would become that thing by which we could call each other. So there's no predicting. One of my favorite sayings is from John Lennon: "Life is what happens when you're making other plans." Mm-hmm. And I think that's been our story. We have no real sense of it, but we must attempt to predict. Otherwise, it'll become chaotic and bewildering, and people will shrivel in their spirit. Yeah. On the other hand, there is an excitement to it, because I've heard so many filmmakers say, I've been trying to get this story, I'm desperate about this story, but the budget's too high. I've been through all the studios. I can't get the money, too expensive. And now I can do it because it doesn't cost much. That's wonderful. I know 4-year-old kids who are asking their mothers to take their dinosaurs and do close-ups and wide shots and cut it together. They're already starting at 4. And I know a girl, a little girl, she's 6 years old, who's the daughter of a friend of mine, who's already creating content on YouTube and getting the feedback of response and honing her skills as to how to tell a compelling story. So it's available to everybody. And that's a really healthy thing. Because bottom line...
Is it though? A 6-year-old being on YouTube?
It's really the human... What was the term you recover the human expression, the human...
I understand what he means.
And that's
but that
the
detail...
case, that's always been the case across all time. That's the extraordinary contradiction here. And I'm just, without going on too long, I have spent most of my adult, even from childhood, trying to understand, most of my adult life, trying to understand how to tell stories. And then when I became a storyteller, it became not only how do I tell stories, but why do I tell stories? And I think that question will still stay with us. Why do we tell stories? The how is changing, but the essence of it, I think, will always be there until some of our stories get so chaotic and wild that we kind of destroy ourselves.
This question is just wild, by the way. Like, how the heck does he expect them to be able to answer, straight?
Talk about all this content that we made and the idea of humanity and great stories. There's also the rest of there's so much derivative content out there. The true original ideas. You think they can still sort of sail through and can still prosper?
Well, there's a thing, Theodore Sturgeon.
The thing is, I understand this question, but what is a truly original idea? There's no truly original ideas. Humanity, humans are not islands whatsoever. Every single idea comes because of influence from outside, external influence. There's nothing created in a vacuum ever. Maybe in the beginning, but even in the beginning, and there's still influence. So, yeah. Let me just listen.
A law that
for
says
rent.
90% of everything is shit. And to that I counter the Guillermo del Toro law, which is 10% of everything is awesome.
Yes.
I really like it. And that is on anything, cars, clothing, entertainment, whatever you want. I think that the interesting thing is to take a stance on what we do. I mean, we talk about stories being told at a rapid pace all the time. I think that we have thresholds that we have crossed that we didn't see crossing. Meaning, whatever is the darkest and the lightest, they say nothing is forever, nothing will end, nothing will start. You only
Everything
believe that when
transforms.
you're very young or very old.
As well.
Things are eternal. So we're part of a wheel and we're turning. We cross thresholds that are really hard to see. I think COVID was a threshold, immense threshold that we all went by through. The fact that we are, whether we like it or not, already into transhumanism. We rely a good chunk of our psyche to a machine that is always on our hand and is always talking to us, et cetera, et cetera. And the other fact is we are being told that we process information much more rapidly than before, but it's not information, it's emotion. We don't account it for what it is. We cannot go through 3 tragedies in 1 minute and then see a skateboarding squirrel in Central Park and then see a dog follow a car in a funny way. No, we can't. We can't, so we have to make the decisions. How much of that we let in a moment where we are talking about pipeline and content, which are basically sewage language or oil language or moving volumes, and not only what we let in, but how much what we do with what we put out. Meaning, all storytelling goes down to 2 stories: the ones that absolve you and blame others, or the ones that make you responsible and allow others to exist in a different way. That's it. There's no other two storytelling. And if our storytelling is just praising ourselves and absolving ourselves, and we need the constant feedback of that, then that's one future. The other one is very interesting. But I'm telling you, already, whoever is going to change this is already been born. It's either 5 years old, 3 years old, 10 years old, I don't know, but that person is already thinking about what to do with the world, because we don't leave the world the way it is. We don't. Storytellers don't. We're not going to just take it. Somebody's already online to tell us all the old folks how to do this. And that is my biggest hope. I mean, to the darkest, there's a great line on No Country for Old Men. He says, what are you looking for? And he says, what's coming? And says, no one sees that. Yeah. And I think that's true. You can strategize against 20 things, and the human spirit will give you 3 more that you never thought about. So that's the darkest and the biggest hope I have.
And what I think is exciting is that, games, going back to that, sits at the core of some of this. Oshi-san, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and also, do you you talked about playing Hideo's games, spending time playing games. Do you think, how do you think games fit into this sort of entertainment storytelling equation in the future?
Rather than focusing on entertainment, but playing together with the protagonist, the main character, or go on a trip in the game world to be excited, or to feel sad about, or to be moved. From that perspective, I think to focus on experiences in game. So I think we are now engrossed and swallowed by games. And films, you have 2 hours or so. It's become lengthy, but games, you will spend 200 hours or 1,000 hours. You can play the same game for a very long time. Well, from that perspective, to resonate with the contents in the entertainment. From that perspective, I think game will be swallowing films in the forward. It cannot compete with the games. And Kojima-san's game, I played, when I played Fando game, I felt that way. Films cannot compete with games. That's what I felt playing on Kojima-san's game in terms of storytelling, in terms of volume, the information, the characters. Well, I do not think films can compete with Kojima games. That's what I discussed with Kojima-san. But what we can do, that is something we need to think about. So I think that will be the themes that we need to think about. Well, we would be forced to be just one of the alternative options, or can we gain something new so that we can win new fans for the film industry? Or with regard to technology,
it's always different. Always.
Well, the worst case, what would be the darkest possibility in the previous question? Well, one thing I have in mind, well, technology is not equally shared by everyone, depending on the region or nation in this unit. There's a disparity of technology across the globe, and the technology disparity means there's disparity or gaps, narrowing, the widening gaps is due to the system, and also the generational gaps as well. Well, our job is to create something new for younger generation, but it has not been the case anymore. Well, not just younger generation, not just for children or kids, but for high school students, teenagers, or people in their 30s, into this generation, as well as adults who know everything in the 30s or 40s, 50s. But it's totally different how we can approach these tiers of audiences, and there will be technological gap between these tiers and generations. Well, I think that is, well, one possibility we need to keep in mind. Well, we together with a younger generation, youth, and we have some leeway to make use of technology, new technology, but on an individual basis, it would be more and more difficult. So that possibility would relate to the disparity in terms of technology. That it may widen the gaps. That is some vague feeling I have. And also, from the creator's perspective, to express something, well, how should I put this? Within something I create, the values, my values, or, well, my philosophies, if you will, that is something that, well, we are having difficulty trying to convey with the audience more and more. And as a result of that, our style, in terms of semiology or in terms of principles of how you can give reward to audience, from that perspective, trying to disseminate the meme, that may be regarded as our job going forward. Well, I feel that way from Kojima-san. So Kojima-san, you're trying to, well, your worldviews and passions and values, that's something you're trying to convey through your title. But at the same time, Kojima Hideo, your style of expression that's disseminated through the web, through the games, to the world. So Kojima-san's meme would be, well, found across the globe going forward. But I think that's okay, that's fine. So originality may not be, well, of that importance. So I think that is something I think would occur in the future. And from that perspective, and from the perspective speed, and in terms of market, the films, well, have some difficulty. It may be swallowed up by games going forward. Of course, films would still exist. It's not gone together as with animation. It would be there. However, it may be some traditional artwork. It could be traditional artwork in some scenarios. And animation, well, anime tend to be regarded as a traditional artwork. So if we stick to that, that may be a scenario we may find ourselves in. It's not a bad thing in itself. However, that may be likely to happen. Well, I think I'm talking about only neutral things, but, well, I think, well, the future, there will be a lot of difficulty we need to get over. But at the same time, human beings, well, you need to live a finite life. The three of us, we will have difference in our ages by 10 years old or so. Well, I think it's time for us to gradually leave this world. I don't want this to sound rude, but, well, we have a limited amount of time, and what are we going to do in this time? I think that's what we will need to revisit. And from that perspective, there may be some generational gaps because of the time available, and there would be the disparity in gaps between generations. But what we can do is try to convey something that may be different in the future, but trying to convey something. And in animation, well, it tends to create memes, and that would readily spread across the globe. So I think that is something we can find in the cultural world or in the world of expression. So that's how I feel.
Little pause. I don't know how much we have left of this. Okay. A little bit still, but not much. Okay, let me read what you guys wrote. Yes, it is important, but using AI in political matters such as Albania is complex and does not serve the interests of people. Oh, yeah, like in political matters, yeah. Yeah. He's right about technology not being equal to humans in general. He wasn't talking about technology being equal to humans. It's just the difference of usage in technology from like generations and from different places in the world. So there's like big technological gaps, and for them, that's important to take into consideration. What did I miss here? When fear for AI that is reluctant is the usage for misinformation, but that by itself is also a cycle, because if we're talking political, misinformation has been happening for years before AI existed. The problem is that, yes, misinformation isn't a problem created by AI, but it is populated more. Like, AI is used as a tool to make it even worse, and you see it week by week getting worse and worse and worse, to the point there are some videos that even myself can't distinguish if they're real or not. It's getting really tricky. So again, the problem itself does not lie in AI, but AI is used as a very strong and successful tool for it. Beyond, that's like very much the usage of generative AI, but if you consider like algorithms as well, super, super, super dangerous as well with how they work in spreading misinformation. And of course, we have the huge example that happened years ago with Facebook, and it's happening nowadays very strongly with Twitter, and somehow like it didn't like get not really like shut down, but it's tough with knowing what happened with Facebook and being like huge discussions about it, and like everyone's like, oh well, I guess it happens, and it's still happening, and it's like it's crazy, and there's like so many political movements, so much stuff happening due to algorithms and due to filter bubbles and stuff like that. It's just it's bad. It's really bad. And then what happens is like we're turning into polar opposites. Everyone is just going into extreme opposites, and there's like no in between whatsoever, and no one gives a shit about the other bubble. It's terrifying, and it's just like making it worse and worse and worse, just feeding on it. Going back to what George says about being readily available to everyone. So remember the lecture from my photography professor? She was scared for the future of photographers back then because everyone has a phone with a camera. With that mindset, no one really wants to pursue photography as a profession because everyone has access to it. To apply to everything, that if we have everything in our hands, we may need less people with those professions because we already have it. The thing is, like, interestingly enough, I had a project in a university about that subject, about photography, because photography that we take daily is not like photography as an art, is social photography, and its usage is vastly different from obviously a photography as an art medium. It didn't like replace whatsoever. People still need professional photographers, either for actual really well taken photos, or there are still photographers as artists out there. It didn't replace. It's a thing. It's just it's a phase. It's like it's a transition that we go, and it keeps happening. It will keep happening, and it transforms mediums. It's just us. But I mean, think how old paintings are, how old literature is. Obviously, all art mediums were only done by very selected few, because most were not like instructed, like they couldn't read even, could really talk. But we have like the seven arts are so ancient at this point. They went through so much in society that they will still be here in different ways. They will keep shifting because I think it's just very human. It's just very human. So got my feed set list filter with that, and I follow trusted sources and friends with people who are reliable, which are legit information. Those are little things we can do to educate ourselves to avoid misinformation. Yeah, but it's tough. I wouldn't say that. It's not a coincidence that camera sales have completely tanked over the last 15 years. Of course, but that's normal. Of course that it takes a toll. Of course that, before people needed to buy an actual camera in order to take photos from their trip. Either it was like a camera with a nasty card, or it was like an instant camera and then they would get it done. I mean, I grew up with that, with both of those. But it changed. But the thing that I mean is that it didn't replace it fully. Of course it changed, but just like 10 years ago, analog photography was dying, suddenly turning to a niche again. And now you have a bunch of people buying analog cameras and actually going to that, which is something that I love. I think it's vastly different from digital photography. And so more people now are into that than they were like 10 years ago. So things come and go. Some things will obviously die. We have a bunch of little traditions, little art forms that do die. Some of them are only done by very, very little people. We have like that in like so many different countries. Here in Portugal, we have some of them that still do it, and they're trying to like find students to, you know, learn that art form, that traditional art form. That unfortunately is part of life, evolution. It's sad, but it's just, it happens. Here we're getting less. You'll only mostly see photographers during wedding events, concerts, or studio. Even those people still find ways to get past it, most of the time by hiring friends to handle those events or capturing two from your own phone and editing them. It's possible for documents because most don't care. Here I think it's different. I mean, you still see a lot of photographers like taking actual photos out in the wild with like actual cameras. And for like, concerts, you still see professional photographers, weddings as well, events. Even during my work event, we had one. We had two, one for photos, one for video. What else? I mean, you still see it. Of course, before, I remember when I was a kid, you would see a lot of people with cameras. And now, like, everyone just has their phone. It's different. And of course, it's for those that know photography, it's always going to be different. Like, even if if the camera on your phone is good, most of the times the software just blocks the actual quality of the camera, which is super stupid. I mean, it's on purpose, but it's stupid. And mine, for example, just adds AI. I can't disable it, and I hate it. Like, I take a selfie, AI. I take a photo of a cat, AI. Like, I have a split second, like it shows the photo, the real photo, and then in a second, it's like, it gets an AI filter. Like, ugh, I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, the one complaint I have about this phone. So, yeah, I would love to have a camera. I do have a camera, but it's like, not 20 years old yet, but 15? Yeah, I think it's 15 years old at this point. My Canon, I don't know what it even is, but my baby, yeah. What phone? This is a nothing phone. So I think right now every nothing phone model suffers from that. A lot of people complain to them about this, but they don't care. That's like most companies are just trying to push AI everywhere. I'm like, I don't want it. Thank you. I want to like take a photo and it's like me. It's me. Obviously, cameras are always different from reality, but like, I don't want AI. Horses are still here, but the populations of horses in the US went down by like 90+% since cars were introduced. Of course, yeah. News and journalists even rely social media nowadays here for photographers. They don't hire anymore. Here, I'll be honest that I do not know. I do not know, yeah. But I would say they will use like things that are public more than they use like with their own photographers. I wonder how much of the cameras that people were buying before with the shitty consumer kind versus the professional sort. Like he was saying, no reason to buy the crappy little home photo cameras anymore, so that market is gone. But the pro market specifically, who knows? I mean, it still exists, but again, a lot of people are, like, a lot less people are buying it. Because before, some people would buy pro cameras without necessarily being a pro. My perception of cameras is also finicky because my family likes photography. So I've always been surrounded by it. Like, my mother always had some. My dad always loved analog photography. So the one that I've taken photos with. It's his camera. I have my Canon. I had like other cameras, but they were they were kids cameras, you know, like Looney Tunes and stuff like that. They were so cool though. I had one Looney Tunes on that. I don't know if it was a Polaroid one that would print automatically, and it would print like this size of a photo. It's like super, super, super tiny. I still have those photos. It's so cute. But yeah, I also have a filming camera. It's like mine and my sister's. It's a Sony Handycam, but the quality obviously nowadays is just like super bad. And my grandfather had a bunch of cameras, so many cameras, most of them not amazing, but I don't know why he had like so many cameras. And he would love taking photos of flowers because he loved flowers. Of course, the hobby niche of photography is going to stay there, even if the job largely disappears. I think, obviously, I also see other experiences being completely different now, like everyone having phones out, of course. Yeah. Even more in an exaggerated way. I feel like people just feel like they have to record things as memories for like an archive, and if they don't, their memory didn't happen. Like their experience didn't happen. It went into an extreme way. It's just too much. At a concert, like I take one photo and that's it. Usually, that's it. I don't like just saying there like this. Like no, I have the memory, and when it goes, it goes. And sometimes like there's videos even online. A big part of cameras in Portugal is that Portugal is a major tourism country too. Got to keep that in mind. Something like 20% of the economy there. So if people are visiting, they're breaking out the good camera. I'm not talking about tourists. Most tourists here take photos with their phones, really. And so people like with actual cameras that don't look tourists, of course they can be. Sometimes I can't really spot them. But you see a lot of tourists just take photos with their phone. Yeah. Those phones, nothing but AI. Forgot details, but apparently new iPhone cam has a feat that only most professional cams have, but now is accessible to iPhone. Really? I work in video, so I tend to use my cameras and stuff, but I haven't used them in a while since I get hired more with video walls. What is a video wall? I think I had a Looney Tunes camera too. I know. You had a Nickelodeon one? It's cool. For example, the flood watch I do, it's so impossible to find live updates from news sites for me to be updated with flood watch. The only thing I could rely is a Facebook live feed of the river here to see if the bridge line has reached the meter where alarm needs to go off. Then I'll get reports from news from that flood that already happened 4 hours later. Yikes. The way you said that the niche comes back, those cheap cameras also back. They are. They're super back. Super. And in some places you cannot even get them easily anymore because people just want them so much. Yeah. The amount of private areas here that you need permits just to be able to take photos using professional cameras. I honestly don't remember what the law is here. I don't remember. There are some countries where you can just take photos and it's whatever. Here I don't remember what it is. If it's a private area, I don't really take photos, I guess. Yeah. So what's killing photography as a hobby here? Yeah, I understand that. I will say I'm proud for that one camera store near Amsterdam Central Station still existing. Let's go. We have multiple here still. Some big, some very old ones. Video wall being LED panels are the things you see in concerts that showcase the artists of your country. I know. Thank you. I know now. Yeah. I don't know why I never memorized the name. Chris is multiple. That's the cool one. I see. It's a cool one. Why is it cool? Was it cool? Let me know on YouTube. Do you think that the message he gave to Kojima was to warn him to maintain his previous personality in terms of his skills and experience and not to turn from an arrogant capitalist character? Wait, what? Each generation differs from the previous generation in terms of science, knowledge, culture, and even human philosophy. If you go from science and knowledge that has to be a generation to a very distant generation, very like somewhat distant. I think what he was talking was more like, imagine from like a grandfather to a granddaughter, for example. Like just from that in a single household, you will see differences. Like the way that I interact with technology is different from how my parents interact with technology, for example. And my parents are very tech savvy for like the usual, I would say, but it's still different. And where I see that the most, for example, is with video games, because even though they've always played video games, they don't play as much as me. They obviously don't have the whole like motor skills as I do as a younger person, etc., etc. So I think he was talking more about that sense than like that way. But I don't understand what you mean with like Warren Kojima with his previous personality. I don't understand that. I don't know, always just gave me that vibe. Never entered, since I feel like it's for photographers. Only not for casuals. I see the place. Yeah. I know in New York City you have to get a permit to take pictures of some very prominent places there, like the fountain in Ghostbusters. If you take a selfie there, they'll take the photo down and try to fine you for some crazy amount of money. And that's legal? How about you? Hello. That's legal? What? Yuck. There was a message before. I didn't read because they were talking. Yeah, the Aqua Road quantum stuff and free will debate broke my brain recently. I'm very curious about that. Very, very curious. Like quantum stuff and free will. I'll do the two things connect. Watching Hotline production later. What is that? Hey, there are parks that you need permits to take photos with, professional camera or even a tripod. Then you'll see random photographers scamming you by taking photos or charging you, especially with tourists, and you get the gist of why they're not allowing photographers in the area. Here, if you want to do like a production in a public place, you need a permit. But if you're just like taking like photos with a professional cam in a public garden, I think it's fine. There's no problem. Because their argument is nobody will come visit if they can see it online and rely on their tourism. That's such bullshit. That's so different from like seeing it online and being there in person. Metal Gear Hotline production? What the heck is that? What is that? And no, like I should be in bed already. But the conversation is interesting. So Metal Gear Hotline production. Oh, is it like podcast kind of thing? Maybe not. But yeah, they're like maybe talking like news about something. What time is it? Is it can't even know the time, like when it's happening. Tokyo Game Show. Can't even find when it is. Why is Reddit in like? I don't want it in Portuguese. Stop. I hate that like you can find posts, but they translate it automatically. 2 hours from now? No, I can't. I work tomorrow. I should be in bed. No. It's funny because back in uni, every project and activity we do with photography outside is always illegal. Security guard approached us for permits. That's when the professor ends the class and all dip. That's so bad. Thank God that is not a thing here. I took pictures of like abandoned buildings, inside of abandoned buildings, in very touristy areas, yada yada. Yeah, I have like a series of photos from a project that I did for a photography class, where it's just buildings as well. So I mean, they're buildings, I guess, they could go against me if it was there, I guess. But here it's like whatever, just going around taking pictures, and that's it. Because I really like taking pictures of buildings. I miss photography, but I mean, this like it's not the same thing to take a picture with this, and cameras are so expensive. So I will buy one eventually. It's like one day, but since it's not really necessary, oh well. Let's go back.
Yoshi-san, you mentioned the idea of film being a finite piece of content for a few hours. Games, as you said, having tens or hundreds or thousands of hours with them. I'm curious, George and Guillermo, when you look at, as you build universes moving forward, do you see, do you think of now of sort of like, here's the film expression, here's the series, here's the game? Do you think that's going to be something we're seeing more of, sort of this universal view of a story and how it can sort of live, on an ongoing basis?
Well, I think we see it already happening. We saw it today. You are working in several different platforms and different media. And that's legitimate. It's look, I keep on sort of finding refuge in what's constant, and is always there. That seems to be immutable as to who we are as humans, and I also find a great excitement as the tools develop. I think it's perfectly legitimate to play a game if it's on the level that you do, Kojima, is because it's all encompassing. When I've been involved, as you know, I don't play the games. I watch other people play games. I've stopped playing games a long time ago. I've lost my engagement. Mm-hmm. I never fail to be engaged in the way that we all do with stories. We apprehend stories at every level as a human being, viscerally, emotionally, intellectually, anthropologically, in terms of our spirituality and mythology. It's constant. Any story, a story that you hear from a neighbor, your family, your favorite sporting team, and whatever, the ones that really stick are those that hit all those levels and have all those dimensions. And if it takes how long is it to play Death Stranding? How long?
It's long.
How many hours?
Yeah, you're spending 30 plus hours sometimes. Yeah.
So if it takes a game, you're lost in the life of that. Sure, you're not out in the street or in the wilderness playing the game, but your process is the same. And we've all heard stories of people who on chemotherapy. In fact, I have a niece who's going through very severe chemotherapy, and all she can do is play a game, and gives her the comprehensive experience of endeavor, of worry, of anxiety, of triumph, and all of that sitting because she can't move any other way. So that's a very legitimate use of storytelling. We can't. You're right. We can't be afraid because that's not who we are. It's a question of riding that wild beast that we're on, and some of us falling off and being crushed, and some of us managing to get through to, further down the track and passing it on somehow. That's my sentiment anyway.
Yeah, I think everybody has been looking for that holy grail, and I do believe it exists. And I do believe that you can permeate one platform through another, 100%. And some of it is already being enacted with partially controlling cinematic moments in a game and this and that. And many of these have been pioneered by Kojima-san and others. But I think it's, what is beautiful is that we are seeking an experience, and nobody, I don't think even Kojima-san knew that for me, part of surviving COVID was that Stranding. You know, you never know where, you know, you cannot just say this is good, this is bad. As you were talking about the chemotherapy, I think that there is an alternative way of thinking and experiencing that many people will find useful to push the storytelling to the next level. And it is coming. And I think somebody will crack that code and make it work. And I think it is imminent. I believe it is.
Wow. Well, it's been fascinating. We got through 2 out of the 20 questions I wanted to ask you guys. This is such a fascinating conversation, but we do have to wrap it up. Let's give a big hand to our panel here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll stand. We're going to take a little photo here, right?
All right. I mean, with 4 of these, how the heck did you expect them to just like answer like this and that's it? Considering even more, the questions that were asked were complex, not easy to answer, like in a couple of sentences whatsoever. Thank you so much to my Patreons, Gabriel Veiga, My Team's Fault, and LeBuff. Thank you as well to my YouTube members, 2 Gamers, 1 Love. Thank you!